Next, I'd like to call to the stage Ebony Joanne, who performed the title role of Ma Rainey's Black Bottom in both its debut and 2003 revival on Broadway. Her other Broadway productions include August Wilson's Gem of the Ocean, Drowning Crow, and The Sunshine Boys. Ebony's most recent film release is the Adam Sandler blockbuster, Grown Ups 2. Let's welcome Miss Joanne. I wanted to talk about Ma Rainey and Bernice and Aunt Esther and Rose Maxson, which we know play a central function in his works. Can you talk about some of your favorite characters in his plays and what role you feel that they played in those stories? Who wants to get that started? I see Roz thinking over there.
Well, they call Ma Rainey, they call the women of August Wilson the backbone. Honey, there'd be no bone without the women of August Wilson. Especially with Ma Rainey in mind, because Ma, you did it Ma's way or there was no way. Mm-hmm. And she was a diva in her time. And she's a diva today. She was the mother of the blues, and therefore that makes me the mother of the blues.
Did you find that people did not know about Ma Rainey until
Absolutely. I was interviewed just the other day, and after asking me a few perfunctory questions like, how did you get involved in the August Wilson cycle, et cetera, et cetera. And once I answered those questions, he then asked me if Ma Rainey was a real person. I passed him back his microphone.
So do you think that's what was pushing Mr. Wilson, that the idea of kind of evoking the spirits of the ancestors? I mean, was he a conduit for that? Do you think that's how he looked at his cycle of work?
I thought about that a lot, like this morning, and for me, he wanted us to have our place in history, told by us and for us. And he put us into history. I remember how the people were lined up on the streets in Pittsburgh watching the funeral procession going by. And they were just lined up along the streets. They had banners and posters and pictures, and this man was every man. And he put every man into our history to be told through the ages. That would be where I was coming from. The other hand, with Ma Rainey was so strong and so ahead of her time. And the words are just so powerful. And I relish each and every one because of that. It gives me great joy to be able to perform that for audiences. One of the last times I did it up in Syracuse to a largely white audience. I received tremendous reviews, but those people hated me. They did not like Ma Rainey because she sat there with her legs gapped wide open and she just talked about how she was being perceived and received in society. And they were not accustomed to that. And they really did not like Ma. And it didn't make Ma one bit of difference.
Having a female as a director of these works, as opposed to having a man, do they evoke the story in a different way?
I think perfect example of that was exhibited last night in the reading of Joe Turner's Come and Gone, with the nuances that Felicia Rashad brought to the reading. I enjoyed the words so much. I was rocking back and forth. I mean, it was just delicious. So I think that a woman brings out nuances that maybe a man may not have within his body of experience. And that was just, it was eatable, you know, it was just so good. And I saw her hand, I saw her touch. I felt those nuances, that what she brought out of that delightful scene with the children. It was just heartwarming. It was, you visualized the whole thing. And I think that a woman brings that, enhances that with their touch.
I've been meaning to ask you, Ma, about these songs. This Moonshine Blues, that's one of them songs Bessie Smith sang, I believe.
Bessie what? Ain't nobody thinking about Bessie. I taught Bessie. She ain't doing nothing but imitating me. What I care about Bessie? I don't care if she sell 1 million records. She got her people, and I got mine. I don't care what nobody else do. Ma was the first, and don't you forget it.
Ain't nobody said nothing about that. I just said that's the same song she sang.
I've been doing this a long time. Ever since I was a little girl. I don't care what nobody else do. That's what gets me so mad with Irving. White folks try to be put out with you all the time. Too cheap to buy me a Coca-Cola. I let them know it, though. Ma don't stand for no shit. Wanna take my voice and trap it in them fancy boxes with all them buttons and dials, and then too cheap to buy me a Coca-Cola. And it don't cost but a nickel a bottle.
I know what you means about that.
They don't care nothing about me. All they want is my voice. Well, I done learned that. And they gonna treat me like I wanna be treated no matter how much it hurt them. They back there now, calling me all kinds of names. Calling me everything but a child of God. But they can't do nothing else yet. They ain't got what they wanted. As soon as they get my voice down on them recording machines, and it's just like if I'd be some whore. And they roll over and put their pants on. They ain't got no use for me then. I know what I'm talking about.
The floor is yours. Please tell us about Ma Rainey.
That's Ma Rainey. I mean, she knew that if she didn't take charge, she comes in and she's coming in with the police. And she's saying, Irvin, you better tell this man who I am. You better get him straight. And everybody's trying to say this and say that. And she said, tell him who I am. Tell him who he's messing with. It's just like if it would happen today, it's just like if you don't know who I am, you better ask somebody. So that's who she was, and she knew that. She was a diva of her time. She was the black woman. She wore diamonds. She had gold teeth in her mouth. Of course, that was fashionable. She wore a necklace of gold money around her neck. She had her own bus. She was just an extraordinary woman. I mean, a suffragette. I mean, she was a freedom fighter. She was all of that rolled into one. And I just love her for being who she was.
How central is the blues? Speaking of Ma Rainey.
The blues, okay, that was the beginning. The blues was the beginning of my friendship with August Wilson. They had me to come in. They put together a pool of actors for the O'Neill Playwrights Conference. And if you're lucky, you get to do a couple of new plays during this summer conference. And so they had me come in for Joe Turner's Come and Gone. Ma Rainey's Black Bottom was on its way to Broadway, theoretically. And I did the Cole reading, the audition pieces, and then they asked me to sing. They knew that they were going to need an understudy for Ma. And when I sang the blues, see, that's the stimulus for everything for August. It was the blues. It was just something that he connected with, and that was always the thread that bound us. You talking about Bynum? That was what bound us together, the blues. And so we always had that at the baseline of our friendship that we maintained throughout his life. And he's one of the main reasons why, at my age now, I'm recording my first blues album. I mean, we all, as actresses, Roz alluded to it earlier, wanted, because we came out of the O'Neill experience and we knew him as a playwright and he was always writing, so we were always begging him to write something for us. So I understood perfectly what she meant when she ran away when he said that he had something for her. So I spent all of my time with him going, when are you going to write a play for me? When are you going to write a play for me? And then Constanza got a chance to see Ma Rainey during the August Wilson cycle at the Kennedy Center. And so that was her first time seeing me do that. She took us out to lunch afterwards, and the first thing that came out of her mouth was, August wrote that for you. Now, it was written before, it was on its way to Broadway, but that meant so much to me because it had become so much a part of me that for her to say that, that was an award right there. This reading series of all 10 plays, I threw everything off my calendar to be here for every reading, for every talk, for everything connected with this, because that's how much this means to me personally. As we are being written out of the history books, we have to make sure that we plant as many seeds to keep the legacy going. And I'm going to do everything I possibly can, as long as God blows breath in my body, to see to it that this legacy moves forward, because we are being written out of the history books.